All right, everybody. What's going on tonight? What's happening? This your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect. So I want to get into the subject matter about the current state of Black women in America. And also this whole so-called controversy about protecting Black women and Daniel Cameron. Also, I want to talk about this extremism with all belief systems, right? How there are extremism and extremists in all belief systems. So this is the open topic. Okay. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to deal with the first topic about the state of Black women in America. Okay. So we're going to talk about this controversy about the slogan protecting Black women. So regarding to Megan and Daniel Cameron and all of that. So I'm gonna show this article that she wrote in New York Times. Okay, I'm gonna read that article, and not only I'm going to read the article, but I'm also have a discussion about it. All right, and then I'll go on to that second topic. So I'm looking to be on here maybe about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, not very long. But I feel this is necessary, okay? So, as you all know about what happened to Breonna Taylor and the whole injustice system, this crooked ass system, the officers that killed her, they were found guilty except for one. One wasn't found guilty. The other ones, they were found guilty on disrupting the neighbor, but not guilty of killing this woman. And Daniel Cameron, who was supposed to be the attorney general looking over the case, evidently he didn't do his job correct. So he received the backlash. All right. So let's go ahead and look at this article. Let's look at Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron reacts to Megan Thee Stallion calling him out on SNL, Saturday Night Live. All right, so Attorney General Daniel Cameron announced last month that no police officer would be charged for killing Breonna Taylor. Check this out. So, all right. Check this out. So, Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron did not take kindly to Megan Thee Stallion calling him out in her Saturday Night Live performance over the weekend. Cameron, the first Black attorney general elected in the state, announced last month that none of the police officers involved would be charged in connection to the March 13th fatal shooting of Breonna Taylor, 26, inside her own Louisville home. One of the three officers were indicted for wanton endangerment for allegedly firing bullets that risked injury to persons in an adjacent apartment. During her performance on Saturday, Megan, who is 25, told viewers, "We need to protect our Black women and love our Black women because at the end of the day, we need our Black women." The Savage rapper also included audio of activist Tamika Mallory's scathing takedown of the indictment news in which Mallory said in a speech last month, "Daniel Cameron is no different than the sellout Negroes that sold our people into slavery." Appearing on Fox News and Fox and Friends on Tuesday morning, Cameron reacted to the SNL call out. "Let me just say that I agree that we need to love and protect our Black women." He said, "There's no question about that, but the fact that someone would get on national television and make despairing comments about me because I'm simply trying to do my job is disgusting." So it's disgusting. Continue. Let me just say that I agree. No, I read that part. Okay. So it says the fact that a celebrity that I never met before wants to make those sorts of statements, they don't hurt me. But what it does, it is expose the type of intolerance and the hypocrisy, because obviously people preach about being intolerant. He added, you hear a lot of that from the left about being tolerant. But what you saw there is inconsistent with tolerance. In fact, it's her disposing intolerance because I've decided to stand up for truth and justice. Then it says, a rep for Megan did not immediately respond to people's request for comment. When announcing the grand jury's finding, Cameron said the officer who fatally shot Taylor, as well as other officers at the scene, were returning fire from her boyfriend. He said the officers were justified in their return of deadly fire after having been fired upon by Kenneth Walker. Okay. So I'm just going to stop right there. Let's talk about this article. So what he did was justifiable, right? He was standing up for justice and truth. But he agrees that Black women should be protected. He agrees that Black women should be protected. How? How can't you agree with that? If you saw, okay, if Black women were supposed to be protected, right? If you agree with that slogan a lot, then why did you not give justice to Breonna Taylor? Why could you not see that the fellow police officers, what they did was wrong? But yet and still you criticize a rapper for using the slogan because you failed to do your job as an attorney general. You failed to carefully analyze the case, because if you really analyzed it, you would never, if you really analyze it, you would have never let those police officers get away with what they did. So there's a contradiction in his statement. And it took him a long time. It took him a while to actually get a hold to that case. You know why? Because he was too busy pleasing his white fiance. He was too busy pleasing her, caring to her need, and not focusing on Breonna Taylor. So if he really agreed with that, I think he would put much more attention and focus on the case. And I think he would have been able to analyze it better than make an irrational decision. That's for one. But let's go down to that article. Let's go back to the article. Okay, now it says, in addition to her words about Black women, Megan also said we need to protect our Black men and stand up for our Black men, because at the end of the day, we are tired of seeing hashtags of our Black men. The season premiere of SNL, which was hosted by Chris Rock and began with a cold open marketing the recent presidential debate with Alec Baldwin reprising his role as President Donald Trump and Jim Carrey making his first appearance as Vice President Joe Biden, drew its second highest number of viewers in 12 years. All right, it says ratings were up 26% from last season opener, and with 7.8 million viewers tuning in the show, which built a drive-in theater at Universal Studios Hollywood backlot for a special drive-in viewing experience, became the most watched entertainment program on broadcast networks for the week. Now, the whole presidential debate was a joke. Because what I saw, white supremacy versus white supremacy, meaning that you got white supremacy liberal, you got white supremacy conservative. That's all I seen. Two birds of feather flock together. And no, I did not watch the vice president debate because I felt like it was no need for watching it. I mean, it defeated the purpose because it probably been just as goofy as the debate in itself. It was a travesty. So no, I didn't tune in, I didn't entertain it, and I didn't watch it, and I didn't care to watch it. I didn't watch those vice president debates. No. And again, I wasted my time watching the presidential debate because all I seen was two white supremacists. That's what I saw. Two white supremacists. One was liberal, one was conservative. That's my honest opinion about that. Now, let's go into another article that Megan had did that was on time. Excuse me. Let's go into another article that was in NewYorkTimes.com under opinion, where Megan did a little video, and I thought the video was very impressive. And also she wrote a nice statement. I was impressed. I agree with most of the stuff that she was saying. Now, there was some disagreements I had. There's some disagreements. But most of the stuff that she was talking about, I truly agree with. I thought that was very impressive. I was pretty impressed. I'd rather listen to her before I listen to that old damn Cardi B, because the Cardi B couldn't tell me nothing. Go over there. I couldn't listen to Cardi B, okay? But I was impressed with Megan's intelligence. I really am. So let's go ahead and look at that article that she did from New York Times. All right. Okay, so I'm back. All right, so let's look at the article real fast. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play this little video that she did first, and then I'm going to read this article because I thought it was very impressive. Let's check out the video. Hold on, let's go ahead. Share the screen. Let's share the audio. Ooh. Okay.
What does it mean to be a woman of color?
Angry black woman, angry about something.
She's got to be strong because that's just the expectation. Loving herself, but not too much, because then she's conceited. Being his lady in the streets, but his freak in the sheets. Inheriting her grandma's love, but always loving the wrong one. Twerking for her man, but not with her friends. Being constantly told she's too much or not enough.
The most disrespected person is the black woman.
Constantly having to prove she's a victim because society sides with a man. Not being able to express her traumas because she can't show no weakness. Is constantly told that she's too dark, too thin, too thick, too much of a bitch. Being murdered, beaten, abused, then questioned if she evoked all of it. Is left out on the street, but becomes the flower that grows from the concrete.
Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet?
She marches for everyone else, riots for everyone else, dies for everyone else. She loves everyone else, lives for everyone else. But when it comes down to her, it ain't a mother in sight.
The system as a whole has failed her.
You've never been shot. You don't know her
Say
name.
her name.
18 women of color. Murder.
Okay.
To be a big
One thing I gotta say
is knowing to set a good example, to be a Hispanic woman in tech. It's definitely a bit intimidating by.
Okay, so one thing I gotta say is I think the video was very impressive. It's very impressive. I like the way that she used the poetry style in there and just convey a point. I like that she used a variety of women. Now, the one thing that really threw me off was that transgenderism. That's the part that threw me off. I feel like that wasn't needed. I think that the whole man walking around wearing heels and trying to dress up like a woman, that wasn't needed. That should have been out the picture. You know what I'm saying? I have an issue with that. When you compare transgender women with women, you know what I'm saying? That's a whole different category to me. So that's why I stand on my opinion with that. But overall, I really respect her views regarding to the fact about Black women, and she has a point, so Black women tend to get ridiculed for a lot of things. And it goes back to the history of the concept about being looked at as Jezebels and hoes and bitches and all that. So, I'll share a little bit of that in a minute to kind of back up the point that Megan was trying to make. But let's read the article. Let me find that article. Okay. All right. There go the article. It says, Megan Thee Stallion, why I speak up for Black women. And she put, I'm not afraid of criticism, and protect Black women should not be controversial. Okay. And she put, in the weeks leading up to the election, Black women are expected once again to deliver victory for Democratic candidates. We have gone from being unable to vote legally to a highly courted voting bloc, all in little more than a century. Despite this and despite the way so many have embraced message about racial justice this year, Black women are still constantly disrespected and disregarded in so many areas of life. I was recently the victim of an act of violence by a man. After a party, I was shot twice as I walked away from him. We were not in a relationship. Truthfully, I was shocked that I ended up in that place. My initial silence about what happened was out of fear for myself and my friends. Even as a victim, I have been met with skepticism and judgment. The way people have publicly questioned and debated whether I played a role in my own violent assault proves that my fears about discussing what happened were unfortunately warranted. All right. So, real fast. Where she says Black women are expected to once again deliver a victory for Democratic candidates. See, that's the thing. Overall, in Black people, we've been told that we have to vote Democrat. Democrat this, Democrat that. Democrats. That's what we have been told. If we don't vote Democrat, then we're not voting at all. But what we have not been told to do is be more sagacious and discern and look at each political party candidates and their policies. We always think that if we vote Democrat, that we're going to win, that somebody's going to represent us. But little do we understand that we have been failed miserably by the Democratic Party, then we've been failed by the Republican Party. Now, that doesn't negate or to say that we should go ahead and vote Republican, no, because they're just as bad too. But you just have to be able to look at each political candidate and their whole agenda, their whole goal. What is their goal, especially regarding to the so-called minorities, which we supposedly represent? That's what we gotta look at. All right. Um, let's see. Now going into this article right here. She said, after a lot of self-reflection on that incident, I've realized that violence against women is not always connected to being in a relationship. Instead, it happens because too many men treat all women as objects. Too many men treat women as objects. Okay, now I gotta say this. I gotta give a little criticism on that statement. Some women objectify themselves to be treated as object. Let me tell you why. Because they figure that if they use sexual gratification, right? They're thinking, oh, it's just confident. Yeah, you might be confident in yourself, but you gotta realize you're also drawing attention. You're drawing attention from people who bring about negative energies. You know what I'm saying? See, you objectify yourself. So when you objectify yourself in a sexual way, in a sexually explicit manner, then that person is not going to look at you for the individual that you are. They're not going to look at you as the woman that you are. They're going to look at you as just that, the sexual object. So in the way I have to disagree with that argument that I agree with her, but then I have something to add on to it. Let's just put it like that. So I have to give my critique on that to add on. So it's not all women, but there are women that put themselves out there to be looked at as sexual objects. There are those that do, and we have to be very open and blunt about that. All right. Okay, I'm back. All right, give me a second, you guys. Okay, so as I was stating before, yeah, there are some women that put themselves out there to be viewed as a sexual object and to be sexually objectified by men. Okay, so men, when they look at a person, right, the first thing they're going to look at is your body. Okay, they're going to look at how you appeal as a woman. All right, and the first thing that's going to stand out to them is your breasts, your hips, your legs, and all that. And there's some women that get so offended and say, well, he don't need to be looking at me like that. Well, that's what they're gonna do. You wearing certain stuff and you draw that attention. You gotta understand the type of people that you attract, and you gotta pay attention to your surrounding and be more careful. But let's continue on with the article. Okay, let's go back to the article. All right, so she also put in this article, which helps them to justify inflicting abuse against us when we choose to exercise our own free will. From the moment we begin to navigate the intricacies of adolescence, we feel the weight of this threat and the weight of contradictory expectations and misguided preconceptions. Many of us begin to put too much value to how we are seen by others. That's if we are seen at all. Then she go on to say, The issue is even more intense for Black women who struggle against stereotypes and are seen as angry or threatened when we try to stand up for ourselves and our sisters. There's not much room for passionate advocacy if you are a Black woman. Now, that part, I agree. I have to agree. Because even myself, I have witnessed that on social media. If I say anything that is regard to speaking up for Black women or speaking on the issue of Black women, then I get labeled as, I have been labeled as a feminist. I've been labeled as a man basher. I have been labeled all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I've been called angry, emotional, but because people don't understand or seem to see my argument. So it's kind of hard for some Black women to be vocal and speak out against things regarding to our issues. Only because we worry that we're going to be demoralized and criticized for what we have to say and how we feel about something. But let's go ahead and continue on with the article. I recently used the stage at Saturday Night Live to harshly rebuke Kentucky's Attorney General Daniel Cameron for his appalling conduct in denying Breonna Taylor and her family justice. I anticipate some backlash. Anyone who follows the lead of Congressman Joe Lewis, the late civil rights giant, and makes good trouble, necessary trouble, runs the risk of being attacked by those comfortable with the status quo. But you know what? I'm not afraid of criticism. We live in a country where we have the freedom to criticize elected officials. And it's ridiculous that some people think the simple phrase, protect Black women, is controversial. Yeah, it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous if you believe that by us saying protect Black women in our community is controversial. Now, some people make an argument saying that, well, some Black women don't want to be protected by men. Some Black women want to be totally independent. They feel like they can do it all by themselves. Well, yeah, that's true. Okay, you got those that are very naive enough to believe that, and they don't want to be protected. So that's those that you don't worry about. That's those that you have to separate yourself from. But for those who deserve to be protected and deserve to be respected and cared for, that's the ones that you have to focus on. And those who appreciate the people that's around them, that's what you got to focus on. So yes, you got some women that are very conniving enough to say, hey, we don't need no man. We can do it all by ourselves. We can protect ourselves. And they contradict themselves a lot. It happens. I agree. But then you have those women that can be very honest. Say, you know what? Men are needed because you can't operate in the world without the opposite sex, without the opposite gender. You know, we need each other. Men and women need each other. You see what I'm saying? That's period, point blank. No question asked. All right. Let's go on with the article. We deserve to be protected as human beings, and we are entitled to our anger about a laundry list of mistreatment and neglect that we suffer. Maternal mortality rates for Black mothers are about 3 times higher than those for white mothers, an obvious sign of racial bias in healthcare. I'm glad she brought that up. In 2019, an astronomical 91% of the transgender and gender nonconforming people who were fatally shot were Black, according to the Human Rights Campaign. Now, I'm glad she brought this part up right here. I'm so glad she brought this up. Let's talk about the medical apartheid. That's what we call it, the medical apartheid. The mortality rate of Black women, especially those who giving birth to children. They are more likely to die in the hospital after they giving birth. Why? Because they're not getting the proper care. And then there are those of us that don't have the affordable insurance to where we can get the necessary care and the medical needs that is necessary or that we needed. For example, There are those of us who may not be able to afford to get like the proper medication or whatever the case may be. And we're more than likely to be dismissed. We're more than likely to be dismissed by doctors or being overlooked at, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, there is bias taking place in the medical facility, which is why most Black people don't like going to the doctor or going to the hospital. It's not that they don't care about their health, it's because they know how the medical industry is. There's some hospitals that don't care and that won't take consideration for Black lives, especially for those who don't have insurance or don't have the proper insurance, rather. So I'm glad she brought that up. I'm glad she brought it up. Now, the part where she talked about the nonconformity and transgenderism, etc. Okay. Now, again, although I don't agree with transgenderism, which I have the right to disagree. Okay. I don't agree with transgenderism at all. But I don't believe that the lives of those who are innocent, who have not done any harm to anybody, should be taken either. If they have not done any harm and haven't caused any problem, they shouldn't be killed because of their personal choice. Now, if they chose to be what they are, then that's on them. But nobody has the right to take your life because you choose to be a transgender or whatever. You know what I'm saying? If they're not harming you, if they're not forcing their lifestyle on you or trying to impose you or approach a person in a sexual manner, then they don't deserve the injustice. They don't deserve to be, they don't deserve to be killed if they're not doing anything wrong, if they're minding their own business. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't believe that you should go around picking on people and making, just, walking up to them and just, do malicious things and bully them all day. I don't believe that. I don't believe that's right. You can disagree with it because I disagree. I don't agree with a lot of stuff they do. I don't agree with a lot of that stuff that be going on, the LGBTQI, whatever they want to call themselves. I don't agree with a lot of that shit. Okay? I don't. But to just go around and bully them all day, that's not right. That's not right. Because at the end of the day, we got to respect the fact that people going to make their choice and people going to do what they do. And you can't change everybody. You can't stop people from doing what they want to do, especially as an adult. Now, children, that's off limit. You should leave the kids alone. Don't impose your lifestyle on the kids. Don't be trying to influence them on that. That's why I stand on my position. All right. So, beyond threats to our health and lives, we confront so much judgment and so many conflict messages on a daily basis. If we dress in fitted clothing, our curves become a topic of conversation, not only on social media, but also in workplace. The fact that Serena Williams, the greatest athlete in any sports ever, had to defend herself for wearing a bodysuit at the 2018 French Open is proof positive of how misguided the obsession with Black women's bodies is. I would know I received quite a bit of attention for appearance as well as my talent. I chose my own clothing. Let me repeat, I choose what I wear, not because I'm trying to appeal to men, but because I am showing pride in my appearance and a positive body image central to who I am as a woman and a performer. I value compliments from women far more than from men, but the remarks about how I choose to present myself have often been judgmental and cruel, with many assuming that I'm dressing and performing for male gaze. When women choose to capitalize on our sexuality to reclaim our own power, like I have, we are vilified and disrespected. Okay. Now, here's the thing. You may not, in your mind, you may not believe that that's what you're not doing when you're dressing a certain way. But in reality, that's what you're doing. You're appealing to the men. Okay, so women that dress and wear certain type of clothing, they draw attention on themselves. That you know what I'm saying, it's one thing to be confident, but it's another thing when you draw attention. It's another thing when people look at you and they see what they see on the outside of you. And so it's nothing wrong with capitalizing off your sexuality, but just know that it comes with a territory. It comes with a lot of territory, because at the end of the day, you're not really fighting against white supremacy or patriarchal white supremacy. You're really engaging into it. You give it into it. You're playing into the politics of it, but you play into the politics your own way. That's what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? So this whole thing about we should own our bodies, I agree. You have a right to your body, but guess what? You can't own your body if you cannot own your mind. Your mind is what the most powerful tool at, not your body. Because see, that's the misconception that we have as women. We think our body is the most powerful thing, our valuable assets, and it's not the most valuable assets. It's secondary. The primary assets or the primary valuable assets to a woman is her mind. That's the most important value. That's what makes the woman a woman. That's what makes her who she is her mind, not her body. Her body is secondary. Her body is secondary. It's secondary to the mind. All right. It says in every industry, women are pitted against one another, but especially in hip hop, where it seems as if the male dominated ecosystem can handle only one female rapper at a time. Countless times, people have tried to pit me against Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, two incredible entertainers and strong women. I'm not the new anymore. We are all unique in our own ways. Wouldn't it be nice if Black women weren't inundated with negative sexist comments about Black women, if they were told instead of the many important things that we've achieved? It took a major motion picture Hidden Figures to introduce the world to NASA research mathematician Katherine Johnson. I wish I learned in school about this story, as well as more earthly achievements that Alice H. Parker filed the patent for the first home furnace, or that Marie Van Brittan Brown created the first home security system, or that Black women, too often in the shadows of such accomplishment, actually powered the civil rights movement. It's important to know that the 6 of the Little Rock 9 students whose bravery in 1957 led to school integration were Black girls, and that Rosa Parks showed incredible bravery when she refused to move to the colored section. I wish that every little Black girl was taught that Black Lives Matter was co-founded by Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, and Apel Tomonti. You know, it's funny about Black Lives Matter because they don't respect the concept of the nuclear family. They don't respect the concept of the man, woman, and child. They gave their own criticism about the Black male and men in general being the head of the household or being in the family, but then they try to go back and change the narrative. It's just quite interesting. But anyways, walking the path paved by such legends as Shirley Chisholm, Loretta Lynch, U.S. Representative Maxine Waters, and the first Black woman to be elected to the U.S. Senate, Carol Moseley Braun, my hope is that Kamala Harris' candidacy for vice president will usher in an era where Black women in 2020 are no longer making history for achieving things that should have been accomplished decades ago. But that will take time, and Black women are not naive. We know that after the last ballot is cast and the vote is tallied, we are likely to go back to fighting for ourselves, because at least for now, that's all we have. All right. And she's right. Now, I'm glad that she brought up history. I'm glad that she brought up those Black women who have made the contribution to society. Yes, Black women have achieved a lot. And Black women were the forefront behind the civil rights movement. Okay? Black women, if it wasn't for Black women, the civil rights movement wouldn't even happen. If it wasn't for Black women for taking a role in the abolitionist movement, it wouldn't happen. So Black women were always behind the scenes operating. It wasn't like we were just sitting down on our ass and not doing shit. Our ancestors always put in the work, and they did that, but they're not getting proper credit. They're not being taught in the schools. They're being taught by entertainers such as herself. Now, don't get me wrong, Megan is very intelligent, as you can see as I read that article. The girl is real smart. I give her credit. I give her that she's absolutely intelligent. But because she portrays such an image, that's what people think, especially younger girls. They think that that's the way to womanhood. That's about being a woman and presenting yourself as a woman and such, that your body is more important than your mind, than your intelligence. That's what they see. And I understand why she's doing that, because she's playing into the politics of the music industry. See, if you want to be successful as an artist on the mainstream, as a female artist, you got to play into the politics. And that's exactly what she's doing. But she's doing it in her own way. She's doing it her own way. So a lot of young girls are influenced a lot more by negativity than positivity. Okay? They're not getting a chance to see those actual women that's achieving on level as business, entrepreneurs, or economists, or scientists. They're not really getting the opportunity to see that because they don't hear about that, and they're not really taught that. And they don't have those type of people in their household. And let's be all honest, they don't. Somebody put in California, regarding to Kamala Harris. In California, she locked up single Black mothers for their kids not going to school. However, when she had the chance to go after pedophile priests, she did not go after them. Now, I did hear about that story. That's not the first time I'm hearing that. That's not the first time I'm hearing that. I did hear about that before. Yes, she did. She was responsible for that. And also she was responsible for a lot of mass incarceration with Black men as well, for like marijuana and things of that nature. So that's one of the reasons why I don't really I'm not too joyful, or I don't really care too much for Kamala, because it's like, after looking at her history and her background and knowing what she has done, it doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't resonate with me. So I can't connect with her. You know what I'm saying? I don't care too much about her being a vice president for Joe Biden. I really don't. Nor do I care about the other guy that's the vice president for Donald Trump. I don't. I didn't even waste my time looking at the debate because it defeated no purpose to me. Yeah. But getting back to the point, overall, Megan, the girl is very intelligent. I'm very intrigued by her article that she written in New York Times. I think that's very impressive. Let's put on, let me say this. The girl been to 2 colleges, okay? 2 HBCUs. She went to Prairie View and she went to Texas Southern University. Now, this girl is extremely smart, and she's going to school, or I think she has a degree in public health administration. The girl, she's really smart. She's really intelligent. You can tell just by how she's articulated in that article. She knows what she's talking about. Now, there's just things that I disagree with, as I mentioned before, but she's really much on point. And she's pretty articulate. I wish that she could someday come out with music that's more lyrical and that deals with more politically and social issues, because I could see her rapping about that kind of stuff. I mean, she already got the talent. The girl can already rap, you know what I'm saying? I would really hope one day she can come out with music that pertains to more social and political issues. I really do. Because I could see that potential in her. I could see that intelligence in her. You know? But again, let's not look up to these entertainers as the next civil rights leaders, okay? Let's not look up to these entertainers as our leaders in the community, because they're not. They're just entertainers. That's just what they are, entertainers. All right, so I wanted to show something real quick regarding to Jezebels. Okay, let's look up Jezebels. Black women. Okay, so let's look up the concept about the Jezebel stereotype real fast. Because this is what Black women were seen as. All right, so it says, perhaps she remembers her great-great-grandmother who wanted to protest but only rolled her eyes and willed herself not to scream when the white man mounted her from behind. Wow. The portrayal of Black women as lascivious by nature is an enduring stereotype. The descriptive words associated with this stereotype are singular in their focus: seductive, alluring, worldly, beguiling, tempting, and lewd. Historically, white women as a category were portrayed as models of self-respect, self-control, and modesty, even sexual purity, but Black women were often portrayed as innately promiscuous, even predatory. This depiction of Black women is signified by the name Jezebel. Now, Jezebel is a story, it's supposed to be a biblical story about a woman who was a prostitute, who was very lewd, and she was considered as a harlot. So she was not well respected and loved by others around her. Okay. But let's continue on real quick. And it says, Kay Sue Jewell, a contemporary sociologist, conceptualized Jezebel as a tragic mulatto, thin-lipped, long straight hair, slender nose, thin figure, and fair complexion. This conceptualization is too narrow. It is true that the tragic mulatto and Jezebel share the reputation of being sexually seductive, and both are antithetical to the sexualized mammy caricature. Nevertheless, it is a mistake to assume that only or mainly or even mainly fair complexion Black women were sexually objectified by the larger American society. From the early 1630s to the present, Black American women of all shades have been portrayed as hypersexual bad Black girls. So I'm gonna say this. Okay, the belief that Blacks are sexually lewd predates. Hold on. Yeah, the beliefs that Blacks are sexually lewd predates the institution of slavery in America. European travelers to Africa found scantily clad natives. This semi-nudity was misinterpreted as lewdness. White Europeans locked into the racial ethnocentrism of the 17th century saw African polygamy as tribal dances as proof of the Africans' uncontrolled sexual lust. Europeans were fascinated by African sexuality. William Bozeman described the Black women on the coast of Guinea as fiery and warm and so much higher than the men. William Smith described African women as hot constitution ladies who are continually contriving stratagems how to gain a lover. The genesis of anti-Black sexual archetypes emerged from the writings of these and other Europeans, the black male as brute and potential rapists, the black woman as Jezebel whores. Now, okay. Now, it's not to say that there was no prostitution in the time period, because you had prostitutes all over, okay? You had prostitutes in ancient time, but the black woman wasn't made or wasn't identified as the whore until she got here to this country. The moment she stepped down, that's when she was labeled as, oh, she's the sexual object and she's a whore and she's a Jezebel, okay? So we have been Americanized to believe that this is something that's been going on for centuries. So the American society has perpetuated that idea about us. Okay. They have. But let's keep it real. The original whores in America, you want to know who the original whores were? It wasn't the black women. It was actually the white women. They were the original whores. Yeah, they were the original whores. They was the original hoes. Yeah. Yeah, they was doing all the prostituting, doing all the fucking behind the master back. But don't tell nobody though. That's a little secret. But anyhow, yeah, we have been always mislabeled. In America, black women have been taken as a joke. All right. We have not been taken seriously since the beginning of time. And what I think as a state of black women, we have not really progressed collectively altogether. There are those who are trying to set the example for other groups of women, but there are a vast majority that has not progressed. So we still at this current state. We have yet to even earn our respect collectively in this country. And we're really not going to earn our respect. I mean, even as black people, yeah, no matter how much these companies, these corporations want to sit here and act like they want to fight for us and give us all our rights, etc. Yeah, it sounds good, but at the end of the day, we're the last to ever be respected and to be acknowledged in this country. We are, so, and that is my thought on that subject. So now, real quick, I'm gonna talk about this whole concept about the extremism. Right. And in all belief systems. So let's get to that real fast. I ain't going to take too much time on it. I want to get into this because I saw a comment. Well, I saw the post on Facebook about religious people. Someone compared people who practice in religion as to those who are doing meth. Yeah. Someone made that comparison that practicing religion is like doing meth. And I think that's very extreme to say, because just because a person practice their religious ideology doesn't make them a religious zealot. Okay. Yes, you have people who are very religious and very insane to the point that they try to enforce their beliefs upon you. But if people doing it just so they can bring about self-healing and meditation and whatnot, then let that be. People have the right to choose what religious practice or religious organization they want to be belong to. And those who are atheists, they can be extremists too. They can be very radical extremists. They can be zealous because they try to enforce people to become atheists. And everybody don't want to be an atheist. Everybody don't want to give into that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So atheism can be a belief system too, because at the end of the day, we don't actually know what's behind this universe. We just know that's the creator. Now, the only thing that's hindering religion is the fact that the stories that's written in the Bible, in the Quran, in the Torah. Because as we all know, if you got enough sense, you know that God ain't wrote none of that shit in the Bible. None of that stuff in the Quran. None in the Torah. All that is man interpretation. All that is man's ideology that's input into the book. That's all it is. Men wrote those books. God ain't wrote nothing. All right. So by me let's just say me, for example, all right? I'm not religious and I'm not an atheist. I'm more like a pantheist, a Gnostic person. I do believe there is a creative force behind this universe, but the way I understand creator, or what you call God, I would understand God as being nature, as being consciousness, and as being the universe. That's how I understand it. All right? Because it makes more sense to me. But I can't sit here and try to demoralize somebody who choose to practice a religion, because at the end of the day, they entitled to that. Even our ancestors had religious practice and beliefs. Okay, there were those when they came over here to America from Central West Africa, 15 to 30% of them were Muslims. So Islam is predominantly practiced in those countries. Islam is practiced in those countries, okay? But what they do is they do it on their own revolutionary terms. And they incorporate a spiritual system from their tribes, whether it be the Ifa or the Akan or whatever. It's called syncretism. Syncretism is when you infuse culture, ideology, or religious ideologies together and make one element out of them. So let's just say you might take Mexican food and you might combine it with some Jamaican food and you might give it a name or something. That's syncretism. So syncretism has always been practiced. Even when you look at these various schools of thoughts that it derives from syncretism. Okay? Even Christianity, Islam, they are syncretism, because Islam is a combination of both Judaism and Christianity. And Christianity is a form of Judaism, and Judaism comes from the ancient practice. So it's always, so syncretism always been there. So people always gonna practice religion, whether you agree to it or not. You can't stop folks. And there's people out there that's creating more religion. And religion don't have to necessarily mean Abrahamic or anything like that. You can make a religion out of anything. You know what I'm saying? Because go back to the word religion, comes from the word religios. Religios means what? To be obligated to or to bind to, right? So you got people that are very bound. They can religiously read books all day. You got people who religiously love science. You got people who just bind to things. That's all it is. So religion been around for the longest, since beginning of time. People always had a spiritual system. Okay? So you can't believe that everybody was an atheist. You can't believe that everybody didn't have their own practice. You can't believe that everybody was totally not connected to the universe in some shape and some form. Yes, there may have been those who may not believe in a God or a deity, or did not practice some type of divination or some type of spiritual system. There were those who didn't. But then there were others that did. So to tell people to stop practicing religion, that's hard to do. Because if you're going to give criticism, you might as well criticize our ancestors who was practicing Christianity and Islam, because those were the two main religions they practiced at that time. And then Judaism came about, but the main religion practice was Christianity and Islam. And people use Christianity as a way to cope with life. People use Christianity as a gateway to being able to build up communities. People use Christianity as a way to revolt against the slave master, like Nat Turner did. He used biblical scriptures in the Bible, right, to justify his revolt against the slave masters. So everybody that was practicing religion wasn't just some pacifying individuals. Okay, everybody that practiced religion wasn't very complacent. There were those who were very rebellious. So at the end of the day, it's all about discipline. That's what it's all about, the discipline and the interpretation, how you interpret God to be. and or the Most High and your discipline. Because it's not the religion itself, it's the people that's behind these religious organizations that's using it as a way to bring about some type of control mechanism. That's what it's all about. So it's about those who was the radical, the extremists that used it as a form to control people and manipulate the way people think and the way that people behave, like they did here in America with our ancestors. White people, they imposed Christianity on our people. They told our people that you cannot. And I showed, as a matter of fact, I have the evidence, okay? I showed the evidence when I did a video earlier about about Gabriel Posler, right? Who was the enslaved blacksmith out of Virginia. In one of those articles, the slave masters, right, in America, the laws in America said that Africans, free Africans, or color or enslaved Africans could not practice their religion, their own religious system. So they could not openly practice it. They could not practice voodoo out in the open, or Obia, or Ifa. They couldn't do none of that. Hell, they couldn't even practice Islam, left alone, because it was a Christian nation. So they had to be on the low key. They had to be secretive about it. Clandestine. That's what they had to be. Clandestine. They couldn't be out in the open. Because if they was out in the open with it, guess what? They was executed. They were persecuted. There was no freedom of religion at that time period. But now, people have an opportunity to practice what they want and how they choose to practice it. Hell, Marcus Garvey was a Christian. Marcus Garvey was a diehard Christian. He believed in Jesus from his front to back to side, from left to right, up and down. He was a Christian. But he was a revolutionary. Malcolm X was a Muslim. And he died a Muslim. But Malcolm X was a revolutionary. And many of the Black Panthers, some of them were Christian and some of them converted to Islam. And Huey Newton was he was an atheist, but he converted into Christianity later on in life. And what's his name? Elgin Cleaver converted into Buddhism, and he converted into, what's it, Christian. Christian is the combination of Christianity and Islam. Y'all don't believe me? I can show you what Christian is. Hold on, let me show y'all that real quick. Christian. Okay, I you know what's matter of fact, I'm gonna show an article. I'm gonna show a source that's dealing with Christian. All right, so this one is dealing with the Nigerian version. Okay, so Christian refers to the assemblage of Christian and Islamic religious practices in Nigeria, and particularly the series of religious movement that merged Christian and Islamic religious practice during the 1970s in Lagos, Nigeria. The movement was pioneered by the Yoruba people. Again, the Yoruba people, they practiced Christianity, and there was those that practiced Islam, but check this out. It was pioneered by them in southwest Nigeria. Christian works against the conventional understanding of Christianity and Islam as two separate and exclusive religions, seeking out commonalities between both religions and promoting an inclusive union of two. Christian law also occupies a distinct geographical space. Nigeria is often understood to be geographically and religiously polarized, with a predominantly Christian base in the south and a Muslim base in the north. However, the Yoruba peoples that occupy the southwestern Yoruba land region of Nigeria are almost evenly divided between Christian and Muslim population. So again, that's the example of syncretism. That's the example of syncretism. So going back to the point, you can't be going around here calling people who practice religion those who comparing them to people who do drugs. You can't do that. You can't. Because at the end of the day, people are looking for peace and salvation. If that's what keeps an individual out of trouble and keep them focused and sane, they have that right to do it. As long as they're not enforcing it on anybody, as long as they're not causing people to lose their freedom, if they're not doing that, then they have the right. They are entitled to what they believe and what they're practicing. They entitled to that. And that's a fact. So anyways, you guys, with that being said, I thank you all for watching. All right, so I'm about to go ahead and log off of here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also you can hit that notification bell and share this channel as well. So I'll hook up with you guys later on. Until then, may peace and power elevation be to all you. Thank you for tuning in. This is your girl Tiffany, and I'm out. And I appreciate you watching. Until next time, peace.